Amanda Jacob felt someone grip her arm before she turned around. The pressure was familiar, too familiar. Strong fingers, no hesitation, like he still had the right. James William, her ex, the same man who spent 3 years reminding her she was poor, ugly, and lucky anyone even touched her. The same man who said no one powerful would ever choose her. The club was loud, lights flashing, people laughing, which meant no one noticed when James leaned in and smirked. "So this is what you became?" he said quietly, still pretending. Amanda didn't fight back. She didn't scream. She just looked at him the way someone looks at a mistake they already survived. James laughed, unaware of one small detail. Someone had been watching the entire time. From the VIP section, a man in a black suit stood up. No anger, no rush, just calm. James didn't know his name, didn't know his face, didn't know that the woman he was humiliating had stopped being unprotected a long time ago. As James tightened his grip, Amanda finally spoke. "You really shouldn't have touched me tonight. Not as a threat, as a fact." And James would soon learn that the most dangerous punishment doesn't come fast. It comes quietly, and it never lets you sleep again. What happened next wasn't loud, violent, or public, but from that night on, James was never alone again. Before the story continues, let me say this. If these stories comfort you, entertain you, or make you feel understood, please subscribe. It's free, but it means everything to this channel. Now, let's continue. Amanda's eyes hadn't changed when James grabbed her. That's what bothered him most, even in that first moment. 3 years ago, those eyes would have filled with tears. Apologies would have stumbled from her lips. She would have shrunk, made herself smaller, whispered that she was sorry for existing in his space. But now she just looked at him like he was furniture, something to step around, something that used to matter and didn't anymore. "You've gained weight," James said, his fingers still digging into the soft flesh of her upper arm. The music thumped around them, bass vibrating through the floor. Strobe lights cut across her face in intervals, blue, red, white, blue, red, white. "Guess nobody's keeping you in check anymore." Amanda didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She simply stood there, her expression as smooth as glass. If you're watching from another country or state, drop a comment below and let me know where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to hit that like button. Let's get this video to 10,000 likes. James felt his smile falter, just slightly, just enough that he compensated by squeezing harder. "What, you're too good to talk to me now?" he said. "That's funny, real funny, because I remember when you used to beg me to stay, when you used to cry every time I walked out the door." "I remember too," Amanda said. Her voice was quiet, flat, like she was reading ingredients off a cereal box. That unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. "So what's this?" James gestured with his free hand at her outfit. A simple black dress, nothing expensive, but clean, fitted, like someone had helped her pick it out. "You've gained weight," James said, his fingers still digging into the soft flesh of her upper arm. The music thumped around them, bass vibrating through the floor. Strobe lights cut across her face in intervals, blue, red, white, blue, red, white. "Guess nobody's keeping you in check anymore." Amanda didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She simply stood there, her expression as smooth as glass. Unwoo had been sipping whiskey when he first noticed the disturbance. His table, positioned at the far end of the VIP section with a perfect sightline to the main floor, offered him a view of everything. The dancers, the bar, the entrance, the exits. He'd learned a long time ago that awareness was survival, and survival was his specialty. He'd been half listening to Min Jun discuss shipping routes and container codes, numbers and dates that blurred together in the way business always did after midnight. Unwoo was tired. He had meetings tomorrow, calls to make, problems to solve. But then he saw Amanda's body language change. Just a little, just enough that a slight stiffening of her shoulders, a pause in her step as she had been making her way back from the restroom, and then he saw the hand, white, male, gripping her arm with the kind of casual cruelty that spoke of practice.
Unwoo set his glass down with a soft click against the marble table. Minjun stopped talking mid-sentence. Hyung? Minjun's voice carried concern. He'd worked for Unwoo long enough to recognize that particular quality of stillness, the kind that came right before violence. Wait here, Unwoo said. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. Muscle memory. His face showed nothing. No anger, no hurry, just the blank professional calm of a man about to handle a problem. As he walked, 3 of his men stood as well, forming a loose perimeter. They didn't follow him directly. Unwoo never needed backup for something like this, but they were there, watching, ready. He descended the 3 steps from the VIP platform onto the main floor. The crowd parted without thinking about it. Some recognized him, most just felt the weight of his presence and moved instinctively, the way animals move away from predators. Unwoo's eyes never left the man touching his wife. "I'm talking to you," James was saying. He shook Amanda's arm slightly, the way you'd shake a stubborn child. "Don't ignore me. You don't get to ignore me. Not after everything I did for you, not after I wasted 3 years trying to make something out of you." Amanda's expression still hadn't changed. That flatness, that absence, it was driving James crazy. "You know what?" James said, his voice rising slightly. "You should be thanking me. If it wasn't for me, you'd still be in that shithole apartment with your loser friends, eating ramen and pretending you had a future. I gave you culture. I gave you a chance to be around quality people, and this is how you repay me?" "I didn't ask for anything from you," Amanda said. "Yeah? Well, you took it anyway, didn't you? You took my time, my money, my patience." "You're right." That stopped him. James blinked. "What?" "You're right," Amanda repeated. "I took your time. I'm sorry for that. It must have been exhausting pretending to care about someone you hated." The apology should have satisfied him, should have felt like victory, but it didn't. Because Amanda wasn't sorry. Her voice had that same flat quality, like she was simply stating facts, like she was narrating someone else's life. "You know what your problem is?" James said, pivoting. "You never appreciated what you had. You were so busy feeling sorry for yourself that you couldn't see I was the best thing that ever happened to you. And now look at you, alone, overweight, probably still broke. Not alone," Amanda said. "What?" "I said I'm not alone." James laughed. "Right, sure. Who'd want you now, after me? You think someone's gonna look at you and see anything worth—" "Let go of her arm." The voice came from behind James. Male. Accent. Korean, maybe. The words were quiet. Conversational. The way someone might ask for the time. James didn't let go. He turned his head, ready to tell whoever it was to mind their own business. And then he saw him. The man was shorter than James by maybe 2 inches. Lean build, black suit that probably cost more than James' car, dark hair styled back, and eyes that looked at James the way a scientist looks at bacteria under a microscope, with clinical interest and 0 empathy. "I said, let go of her arm," the man repeated. Same quiet tone, same lack of inflection. James felt his grip tighten reflexively. "And who the hell are you?" "Her husband." The word hung in the air like smoke. Husband? James's brain stumbled over it, trying to make it make sense. Husband? Amanda? The same Amanda who couldn't afford to split dinner checks. The same Amanda who wore thrift store clothes and took the bus everywhere. This man, in his $1,000 suit, with his perfect posture and the kind of watch that cost more than most people's annual salary, was married to her? Bullshit, James said, but his voice had less conviction than he wanted. The man didn't respond to that. He simply looked at James's hand, still gripping Amanda's arm. Then he looked at James's face, and James felt something cold slide down his spine. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was more like recognition, the way prey recognizes a predator, the way your body knows to freeze when it senses danger even before your brain catches up. You have 5 seconds to remove your hand. After that, I remove it for you. Unwoo, Amanda said quietly. It's fine. It's not fine. Unwoo's eyes hadn't left James. 5. James laughed. It sounded forced even to his own ears.
You threatening me? Do you know who I am? My father owns half the properties in 4, and I have lawyers who will bury you if you even think about doing 3. So maybe you should think real carefully about what you're doing here, because I don't know what kind of story she told you, but 2. James's hand released Amanda's arm. He told himself it was because he chose to, because he was being the bigger man, because violence in a public place was beneath him. But his hand released because Eun-woo had tilted his head just slightly, and his body had moved before his brain could stop it. Amanda rubbed her arm where James had been gripping it. The skin was red. Fingerprint marks were already forming. Eun-woo saw them. His expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted, like the temperature dropped 10 degrees. "Are you hurt?" Eun-woo asked Amanda. His voice had softened fractionally. Still quiet, still controlled, but different when speaking to her. "I'm fine. Show me." Amanda held out her arm. The marks were visible even in the club's dim, flashing lights. Eun-woo looked at them for a long moment. Then he looked at James. "What's your name?" "James William. And I don't know who you think you are, but you don't want to mess with me. My family has connections, real connections, not whatever fake tough guy act you're pulling right now." "James William," Eun-woo repeated, like he was memorizing it. "Thank you." And then he turned to Amanda. "Let's go." "That's it," James said. He felt offended somehow, like he'd been dismissed. "That's all you've got? Some fake tough guy routine and then you run away?" Eun-woo paused. He didn't turn around. "Amanda, wait by the car." "Eun-woo, please." Amanda hesitated. Then she walked away, moving through the crowd toward the exit. People stepped aside for her, though she didn't seem to notice that. She'd stopped noticing things like that months ago. Once she was gone, Eun-woo turned back to James. The smile was gone. Whatever mask of civility he had been wearing was gone. What remained was something that made James take an involuntary step backward. "You hurt my wife," Eun-woo said. His voice was still quiet, still controlled, but different when speaking to her. We were just talking." "You hurt my wife," Eun-woo repeated. "In front of me, in front of my men, in front of witnesses." James felt his mouth grow dry. The club suddenly felt smaller, hotter. "Look, I don't know what she told you, but Amanda and I have history, okay? We used to date. This is just a misunderstanding between two people who—" "I know who you are," Eun-woo said. "I know what you did to her. I know every word you said, every time you made her feel small, every time you reminded her that she was poor, that she was ugly, that she should be grateful anyone would touch her." James felt his heartbeat pick up. "She told you?" "She didn't have to," Eun-woo said, taking one step forward, just one, but James felt trapped. "Men like you leave patterns, scars. I recognized them the day I met her." "I never hit her," James said quickly. "If that's what she's saying, she's lying. I never—" "There are many ways to hurt someone," Eun-woo said. "You knew all of them." The music around them continued. People danced, laughed, drank, lived their lives completely unaware that in this small pocket of space, something fundamental was shifting. "I'm going to leave now," James said. He tried to make it sound confident, in control. "And if you know what's good for you, You will not see me coming," Eun-woo said. "You will not hear me. You will not know when or where or how, but you will feel it every day, every night, every moment you think you're safe." "Are you threatening me?" James's voice cracked slightly. "No." Eun-woo's expression remained perfectly flat. "Threats are warnings. I don't give warnings." He turned and walked away. James stood there, his heart hammering, telling himself that the man was just talking, just trying to scare him, just compensating for whatever sad little life he actually had. But as Eun-woo disappeared into the crowd, James noticed something. The man's 3 associates, who'd been standing nearby the whole time, hadn't moved. They were still watching James, and they were all holding their phones, recording every word, every expression, every threat James had made. When they finally lowered their phones and walked away, James felt his hands start to shake. Amanda sat in the passenger seat of Eun-woo's Mercedes, her arm still tingling where James had grabbed her. Not from pain, from memory. She'd spent 3 years being grabbed like that, pulled, pushed, handled like property that didn't quite meet expectations. And she'd spent the last year learning what it felt like to be touched gently, carefully, like something valuable. "I didn't have to do that," Amanda said quietly. Eun-woo's hands were steady on the wheel. "Yes, I did. He's not worth it. You are." Amanda looked at her husband's profile in the passing streetlights. He looked calm, controlled, the same way he always looked, but she'd learned to read the small signs, the slight tension in his jaw, the way his thumb tapped once, just once, against the steering wheel. He was angry, not at her, for her. "I stopped caring what he thinks a long time ago," Amanda said. "I know." "Then why?" "Because he hurt you." Eun-woo's voice remained quiet, but something sharp edged beneath it. "In my presence, in front of my people, that cannot stand. Your reputation, your safety." Amanda went quiet. She looked out the window at the city passing by. Lights, buildings, people living lives that didn't intersect with hers anymore. Sometimes she still couldn't believe this was real, that she'd gone from crying herself to sleep in a studio apartment, wondering how she'd make rent, to sitting in a car that cost more than her childhood home, that she'd gone from James, who made her feel like an obligation, to Eun-woo, who made her feel like a choice. "He'll retaliate," Amanda said. "James doesn't let things go. His ego won't let him. I'm counting on it." Something in his tone made Amanda turn to him fully. Eun-woo's expression hadn't changed, but there was something in his eyes now. Something patient, expectant, like he was waiting for James to make a mistake. "What are you going to do?" Amanda asked. "Nothing." "Eun-woo." "I'm going to do nothing," Eun-woo repeated, "until he makes it necessary." They drove in silence for a while. Then Eun-woo reached over and took Amanda's hand, gently. His thumb traced over the red marks on her arm. "These will fade, I know, but I will remember them." Amanda squeezed his hand. "I married you because you make me feel safe, not because you need me to fight my battles." "I know." Eun-woo glanced at her briefly, then back at the road. "But sometimes the best way to keep you safe is to make certain people understand what happens when they forget who you belong to." "I don't belong to anyone." Poor choice of words. Eun-woo's small smile touched his lips. "You chose me, and I chose you, and anyone who hurts you is choosing to become my problem. He's not worth becoming your problem. Let me decide that." They pulled into the underground garage of their building. Luxury apartments, security, the kind of place Amanda used to clean for minimum wage. Now she lived here. The elevator ride up was silent, comfortable. Eun-woo's hand stayed in hers. When they reached their floor and entered the apartment, Amanda went straight to the bedroom to change. She could still feel the ghost of James's grip, the way he'd looked at her like something disgusting that had wandered into his line of sight. She'd survived 3 years of that look. She'd survived remembering that she wasn't what he wanted, that she'd never be thin enough, pretty enough, rich enough, white enough to deserve basic dignity. She'd survived, and she'd found someone who looked at her the way Eun-woo did, like she was the only woman in the world, like her size, her skin, her background. None of it mattered except that she was her. Amanda changed into sleep clothes and climbed into bed. Eun-woo joined her a few minutes later. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulled her close, and pressed his lips to her shoulder. "Sleep," he said quietly. "I'll handle everything." "That's what I'm afraid of." But she fell asleep anyway, because for the first time in her life, someone else was carrying the weight, and that someone was very good at making problems disappear. James woke up the next morning with a headache and a lingering sense of unease. He'd gone back to the bar after that weird confrontation with Amanda's supposed husband. If that was even real, James still had doubts. He'd drunk too much, flirted with a girl who seemed interested until she saw his credit card decline. Embarrassing. He'd switched cards and pretended it was a fraud alert, but the girl had already lost interest. Now, standing in his kitchen making coffee, James tried to shake off the weird feeling from last night. That man, Eun-woo, Amanda had called him, had been trying to intimidate him, scare him, make him feel small. But James had grown up around powerful people, Real powerful people. Politicians, business owners, people who actually mattered. Some random guy in a suit wasn't going to make him lose sleep. James poured his coffee and walked to his front door to grab the newspaper. He still got physical papers delivered because his father insisted it was what professional people did. He opened the door and stopped. On his doorstep sat a plain black envelope. No address, no stamp, no markings. Just black paper with sharp, clean edges. James looked left and right down his apartment hallway. Empty. The building was quiet at 7 a.m. Most residents were still asleep or already gone to work. He picked up the envelope. It was heavier than he expected. Inside his apartment, James set down his coffee and opened the envelope carefully, half expecting some kind of prank or junk mail. What he pulled out made his blood go cold. Photographs. 5 of them. The first showed James grabbing Amanda's arm at the club. The angle was from above, from the VIP section, he realized. The image was crystal clear, HD quality. You could see his face, her face, the exact moment his fingers dug into her arm. The second photo showed him leaning in, mouth close to her ear, expression twisted in something that looked a lot like cruelty from this angle. The third showed him shaking her arm. The fourth showed the marks forming on her skin. The fifth showed Unwoo standing behind him, perfectly still, perfectly calm, watching. And beneath the photos, a small white card. On it, written in precise black ink, was a single Korean word, Bogo Ita. James didn't know Korean. He grabbed his phone and opened a translation app with shaking hands. He typed the characters carefully. The translation appeared, watching. James dropped the phone. It clattered against the hardwood floor. His heart was hammering now, actually hammering. He could feel it in his throat. This was just intimidation, scare tactics, rich people playing games. He'd been to law school for a year before dropping out. He knew about harassment, about stalking laws, about what you could and couldn't do. James grabbed his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number for that private investigator his father had used once during a business dispute. 3 rings. Wade Investigations? Yeah, hi, this is James William. I need you to look into someone for me. I need to know who he is, what he does, everything. His name is Unwoo, Korean guy, maybe 5'10", black suit, could be involved in some kind of intimidation scheme. Silence on the other end. Hello? James said. What's the last name? The investigator's voice had changed, gotten careful. I don't know, just Unwoo. He claims to be married to a woman named Amanda Jacob. More silence. Sir, I'm going to recommend you drop this. Whatever situation you've gotten into, I'd suggest you remove yourself from it immediately. What? Why? I'm not licensed to explain that. But if the name you just gave me is who I think it is, then you've made a very serious mistake. I'd recommend legal counsel. Maybe think about relocating for a while. The line went dead. James stared at his phone. Relocating? This was insane. This was all insane. He was James William. His father owned properties. His family had money. He wasn't some nobody who could be intimidated by threatening photos and cryptic messages. James threw the envelope and its contents in the trash. He poured another coffee. He went about his day. But that night, as he lay in bed, he could have sworn he heard footsteps in the hallway outside his apartment. When he checked the peephole, no one was there. Over the next week, James tried to forget about the encounter at the club. He went to work, a mid-level position at his father's real estate firm that mostly involved meetings where James pretended to take notes. He went to the gym. He went to happy hours with his friends where they complained about women and taxes and how the city was going downhill. Normal life, except for the small things. The unfamiliar car parked across from his building, a black sedan with tinted windows. It was there Tuesday, gone by evening, back Wednesday afternoon. The text messages, unknown numbers, no words, just timestamps. 7:48 a.m., the exact time James left his apartment Tuesday. 12:15 p.m., the exact time James met a client for lunch Wednesday. 6:33 p.m., the exact time James entered the gym Thursday evening. And each message ended with the same thing. Bogo Ita. Watching. James blocked the numbers. New ones appeared. He called the police, filed a report, The officer took his statement with a bored expression and said they'd look into it. James knew that meant they would do nothing. On Friday, James got a message at 3:47 a.m. It was a photo of his bedroom window, taken from outside, ground level, close enough that you could see through the curtains to his bed, where he'd been sleeping. Someone had been outside his window taking pictures while he slept. James didn't sleep the rest of that night. Saturday morning, he called his father. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something. There's this guy who's been—" "James, I'm busy." "No, Dad, listen. This is serious. There's someone threatening me, following me. I think it has something to do with Amanda." A pause. "Amanda who?" "Amanda Jacob, my ex. Remember? We dated for 3 years." "Vaguely. What about her?" James explained the club, the man claiming to be her husband, the photos, the messages, the car outside his building. His father listened in silence. When James finished, there was a long pause. "Dad, what exactly did you do to this girl?" His father's voice had gone cold. "What? Nothing. I mean, we broke up, but it was mutual and—" "James, I need you to tell me the truth right now. Did you hurt her?" "I never hit her." "That's not what I asked." James felt something twist in his stomach. "We had arguments. She was sensitive. She took things the wrong way sometimes. But I never—" "You humiliated her. You made her feel worthless. You used her insecurities against her. You treated her like she should be grateful you even acknowledged her existence." James went silent. "James," his father said, and now his voice was tired, "I raised you better than that. You don't understand. She was always—" "I don't care what she was. I care what you did. And from the sound of it, you've pissed off someone who's very good at making people suffer for their mistakes. So what am I supposed to do?" "Nothing. You do nothing. You don't contact her. You don't go near her. You don't even think about her. And you pray that whoever this is decides you've learned your lesson. That's it? That's your advice?" "James, I built a real estate empire by knowing when to fight and when to walk away. This is a walk-away situation." The line went dead. James sat in his apartment, phone in hand, feeling something that might have been fear or might have been rage. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. He'd done nothing wrong. He'd dated a girl. She hadn't been right for him. He'd told her the truth. Maybe he'd been harsh sometimes, but that was honesty, not abuse. And now her new boyfriend or husband or whatever he was playing mind games, stalking him, harassing him. This was illegal. This was wrong. James grabbed his laptop and started searching. Eun Woo, Korean, businessman. The search results made his stomach drop. Article after article, business journals, financial news, international trade reports. Eun Woo Park, CEO of Hansong Logistics, import-export company with connections across 6 countries, revenue in the hundreds of millions. And below the surface, in forums and Reddit threads and whispered discussions, other words appeared. Connected, dangerous, don't cross him. One forum post from a Korean business professional. If you're doing business in Seoul and someone mentions Hansong, you smile, nod, and agree to whatever they're offering. You don't ask questions. You don't negotiate. You just say yes and count yourself lucky you got out of the meeting alive. Another post. My uncle worked for a competitor. They tried to undercut Hansong on a shipping contract. 3 months later, the competitor's warehouse burned down. No evidence, no arrests, but everyone knew. James felt his hands start shaking again. This was insane. This was some internet conspiracy theory nonsense. People exaggerating, making up stories. Except for the photos on his doorstep. Except for the text messages. Except for the car outside his building. Except for the fact that a private investigator had basically told him to run. James slammed his laptop shut. He poured himself a whiskey at 11 a.m. and told himself he was fine. Everything was fine. This would blow over. It had to. Sunday night, James went to bed early. He'd spent the weekend jumping at shadows, checking his locks obsessively, watching the street from his window like a paranoid shut-in. Nothing had happened. No new photos, no new messages. The car was gone. Maybe his father was right. Maybe whoever this Un-woo was had decided James had learned his lesson. Maybe it was over. James fell asleep around 10 p.m., exhausted from stress and lack of sleep all week. At 2:37 a.m., his phone buzzed. He woke up confused, groggy, grabbing for the phone on his nightstand. Unknown number. The message was a video file. James' finger hovered over it. Delete. Block. Go back to sleep. But something made him click. The video opened. Night vision. Green tinted. Grainy but clear enough. It showed James' bedroom. From inside. The angle was from the corner, near the ceiling, like a security camera. Except James didn't have security cameras in his bedroom. The video showed James sleeping, tossing, turning, his face visible in the green light. The timestamp in the corner. Tonight. An hour ago. Someone had been in his apartment. While he slept. They'd installed a camera, and they'd sent him the footage to let him know they could watch him whenever they wanted. James dropped the phone like it was on fire. He scrambled out of bed, hitting the light switch, flooding the room with harsh yellow light. He looked at the corner where the camera angle had been. Nothing. No camera. No wires. Nothing. Which meant they'd removed it after filming. Which meant they'd been in his apartment twice tonight. Once to install, once to remove. While he slept. James grabbed his baseball bat from the closet, the one he'd bought after college and never used, and checked every room. Living room, empty. Kitchen, empty. Bathroom, empty. Closets, empty. All the locks were still engaged, windows closed. No signs of forced entry, but someone had been inside. James called the police again. This time they actually sent an officer. He was young, looked tired, took James' statement with visible skepticism. "And you're sure you locked everything?" the officer asked. "Yes." "No one has a key? Ex-girlfriend? Family member?" "No." "Any evidence of forced entry?" "No, but look at this video." The officer watched the night vision footage on James's phone. His expression didn't change. "Sir, I can't tell from this angle where it was filmed or when. It could be from any bedroom. Could be edited." "It's not edited. The timestamp is from tonight. Someone was in my apartment." "Sir, I understand you're upset, but without evidence of forced entry or stolen property, there's not much I can do. I'd recommend changing your locks. Maybe install your own security system." "You think I'm making this up?" The officer sighed. "I think you're stressed and scared and seeing patterns where there might not be any. Get some sleep. Call us if anything else happens." He left. James stood in his living room, gripping the baseball bat, feeling the weight of being utterly alone. No one believed him. His father thought he deserved it. The police thought he was paranoid, and somewhere out there, Yunwoo and his people were watching, waiting, watching from some angle he couldn't see. James didn't sleep the rest of the night. He sat on his couch, bat across his lap, jumping at every small sound. The refrigerator humming, the building settling, footsteps in the hallway, neighbors going to work. But every sound felt like a threat now. Every shadow felt like it was watching. Hey, if you're enjoying the tension in this story, make sure to subscribe to Love and Tension so you don't miss our next upload. We post stories like this every week. By Wednesday, James had stopped going to work. He'd called in sick, said he had the flu. His father hadn't called back. His friends had stopped texting after he'd canceled plans 3 times in a row with increasingly paranoid excuses. James sat in his living room with the curtains drawn. The baseball bat leaned against the couch. His phone lay face down on the coffee table because he couldn't stand to look at it anymore. But he couldn't stop looking at it. Every few minutes he'd flip it over, check for messages, check for videos, check for proof that he wasn't losing his mind. Nothing. Radio silence for 3 days. That should have been a relief. Instead, it felt worse, because silence meant they were planning something, waiting, watching from some angle he couldn't see. James had stopped eating regular meals, crackers from the pantry, water from the tap. He'd ordered delivery once and spent 20 minutes interrogating the delivery driver through the doorbell camera before finally accepting the food. Then he'd thrown it away without eating it. What if they'd poisoned it? What if they'd gotten to the restaurant? What if? His mind was a hamster wheel of paranoia, spinning faster every day. On Thursday morning, James woke up on the couch where he'd finally passed out around 5 a.m. The apartment was dim, curtains still drawn. His phone buzzed. James grabbed it with shaking hands. Unknown number. The message was simple. "Do you remember what you said to her?" James stared at the text. Amanda. They were talking about Amanda. A second message appeared. November 14th, 2022. Do you remember? James's mind raced backward. November 2022. Almost 3 years ago. Near the end of their relationship. What had he said to Amanda? He'd said a lot of things to Amanda over 3 years. Criticisms, corrections, honest observations about her weight, her clothes, her friends, her prospects. He'd been trying to help her improve. A third message. "You're lucky I even touch you." James felt his stomach twist. He remembered that fight. She'd asked why he never wanted to be seen with her in public around his friends, why he only came over late at night, why he never posted about her on social media. And he'd gotten frustrated, told her the truth, that she was embarrassing, that his friends would judge him, that she should be grateful he was with her at all considering how she looked. "No one like me would ever choose someone like you." Another message. Another quote. James had said that too, multiple times. It had been his go-to response whenever Amanda got uppity, whenever she started acting like she deserved better. "You were wrong." The final message. James threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, screen intact. He stood up, breathing hard, feeling the walls of his apartment closing in. This was psychological warfare, manipulation. They were trying to make him feel guilty for things he'd said years ago, private things, relationship things. How did they even know? Had Amanda told them, recorded him, kept some kind of diary? James paced the living room, running his hands through his hair. He needed to fix this. He needed to make this stop. There was only one way. James grabbed his phone from where it had fallen. The screen was cracked now, thin spiderweb fractures spreading from the corner, but it still worked. He scrolled through his contacts until he found it. Amanda's number. He'd kept it all this time, told himself it was just in case she needed something, in case she wanted to apologize, in case she finally realized what she'd lost. James hit call before he could talk himself out of it. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered. Male, calm, expected. James William. Not Amanda. Wu. James's courage faltered, but he pushed through. "I want to talk to Amanda." "No. This is between me and her. You don't get to—" "You lost the right to speak to my wife when you put your hands on her." "I didn't—" James stopped. Started over. "Look, I just want to apologize. I want to make this right. Whatever I said or did that upset her, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Just call off your dogs and we can all move on." Silence on the other end. Then Wu spoke, and his voice was soft, patient, like he was explaining something to a child. "You think this is about making her upset, isn't it?" "James," Wu said, and hearing his first name from this man's mouth made James's skin crawl. "This is about teaching you something you never learned. Consequences. I said I'm sorry. You're sorry you're being watched. You're sorry you're scared. You're not sorry for what you did. What do you want from me? I want you to understand what it feels like to be watched constantly, to feel unsafe in your own home, to wonder when the next blow will come from where. That's what you did to her for 3 years, made her feel small, watched, controlled, never good enough, never safe." James felt tears prick his eyes. From rage or fear, he couldn't tell. "She could have left any time. I never forced her to stay. You made her believe no one else would want her. That's a different kind of force." "This is insane. You're insane. I'm going to the police. I'm going to report all of this. The stalking, the harassment, the threats. You think because you have money you can—" "Go ahead," Wu said calmly. "Report it. Show them the photos, the messages, the videos. Do you know what they'll find?" James went quiet. Nothing. No evidence of who sent them, no evidence of illegal entry, no threats made, just uncomfortable truths and the feeling of being watched, which, as the police have already told you, isn't enough for criminal charges. How did you... I know because I know everything about you now, James. Where you work, where you eat, where you buy your coffee. I know you're 3 months behind on your car payment. I know your father is disappointed in you. I know your last girlfriend broke up with you because you called her fat. James felt his legs weaken. He sat down hard on the couch. I know you, Unwoo continued, because I made it my business to know you, the same way you made it your business to control every aspect of Amanda's life when she was with you. The difference is, I'm much better at it than you ever were. Please, James whispered, please just stop. I'll do anything. I won't contact her again. I won't even think about her. Just stop. I will stop when I decide you've learned, not when you're scared, when you've fundamentally changed, when you look in the mirror and feel shame for who you were. That's when this ends. How will you even know if I've changed? I'll know. The line went dead. James sat in the silence of his apartment, phone pressed to his ear even though no one was there anymore. He'd made it worse. Calling had been a mistake. Everything was a mistake. Friday came and went. Saturday. Sunday. No messages. No photos. No videos. Just silence. The car was gone from outside James's building. The random texts had stopped. Even the sense of being watched had faded. James wanted to feel relieved. Instead, he felt like a mouse waiting for the trap to spring. He'd started drinking more. Whiskey at lunch. Vodka at dinner. Whatever helped him sleep at night, which wasn't much. His apartment had become a prison, curtains always drawn, doors triple locked. He'd installed his own security cameras, cheap ones from Amazon that probably wouldn't catch a professional, but made him feel slightly less exposed. His father had called once. James hadn't answered. Work had called twice. James had texted back that he had pneumonia. They'd told him to get a doctor's note. He'd said he would. He wouldn't. On Monday morning, James woke up to find something new. Not on his doorstep this time. Inside his apartment. On his coffee table. A plain white envelope. James stared at it from the couch where he'd fallen asleep. He hadn't heard anyone enter, hadn't heard anything at all. But there it was, sitting in the center of his coffee table like it had always been there. James approached it slowly with bat in hand, even though he knew how useless that was. He opened the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a single piece of paper, a list, written in the same precise handwriting as before. Times you told her she was lucky you stayed, 47. Times you canceled plans with her to be with friends, 31. Times you commented on her weight, 89. Times you told her no one else would want her, 23. Times you made her pay when you forgot your wallet, 18. Times you left her waiting for hours without calling, 37. Times you told her she was overreacting, 102. Times you made her apologize for your anger, 64. At the bottom of the list, in red ink, times you said, I love you, 0. James dropped the paper. His hands were shaking so badly he couldn't pick it back up. That list, those numbers, were real. Or close enough to real that it didn't matter if they were exact. He had done those things. All of them. He'd told himself it was honesty, communication, helping her improve. But seeing it written down like this, tallied up like accounting entries, it looked different. It looked cruel. James sank on the couch. For the first time in 2 weeks, he felt something other than fear. He felt shame. James didn't leave his apartment for 3 days after finding the list. He couldn't eat, could barely sleep, spent hours staring at that piece of paper, reading the numbers over and over until they burned into his brain.
89 times. He'd commented on Amanda's weight 89 times. He remembered some of them now, specific moments. Her birthday dinner. She'd worn a dress she'd been excited about. He told her it would look better if she lost 20 pounds. Christmas at his parents' house. His mother had asked about her.
He'd made a joke about feeding her less. Everyone had laughed. The day she got promoted at work, she'd been so happy. He'd said it was probably a diversity hire, that they felt sorry for her. Each memory felt like a knife now. Not because someone was threatening him, not because he was scared, because he could see her face in each memory, the way her smile had died, the way she'd folded into herself, the way she said, "You're right," and "I'm sorry," and "I'll do better." James had told himself he was helping her, but he'd been destroying her. Systematically, daily, for 3 years, and she'd stayed because he'd convinced her she had nowhere else to go. On Thursday evening, James's phone buzzed. He almost didn't check it. He'd been ignoring calls and texts for days now, but something made him look. Unknown number. The message was a photo. It showed Amanda and Unwoo at what looked like a restaurant. Upscale. Candlelight. They were laughing about something. Amanda's head was thrown back, genuine joy on her face. Unwoo was looking at her the way people look at miracles, the way James had never looked at her. Not once. Below the photo, a message. This is what she looks like now. Happy, safe, loved. She doesn't think about you anymore. But you will think about this every day for the rest of your life. We're done here. James stared at the photo for a long time. Amanda looked beautiful. Genuinely, radiantly beautiful. Not because she'd lost weight. She hadn't. Not because she was wearing expensive clothes, though those helped, but because she looked free. The tension that had lived in her shoulders for 3 years was gone. The careful way she used to hold herself like she was trying to take up less space was gone. She looked like a person who knew she was valued. James set down his phone. He walked to his bedroom and looked at himself in the mirror. The man looking back was a stranger. Unwashed hair, hollow eyes. The face of someone who'd been punished not by violence, but by being forced to see himself clearly. James understood now what Unwoo had been doing. Not destroying him, not hurting him, not even scaring him really, just holding up a mirror and making sure James couldn't look away. This is what you did. This is who you were. This is what it feels like to be powerless. And the worst part, the part that made James sink to the floor with his back against the wall, was that Unwoo had been right. James hadn't changed because he was sorry. He'd changed because he was scared. And somewhere in Seoul, or Los Angeles, or wherever men like Unwoo operated from, they knew it. They'd always know it. And James would spend the rest of his life wondering if they were still watching. Weeks passed. Then months. No more messages, no more photos, no more videos. James eventually went back to work. His father had pulled strings to keep his position, though the conversation they'd had about it made James wish he'd just been fired. His apartment remained a fortress. Triple locks, security cameras, curtains that stayed permanently drawn even though he knew it didn't matter. If they wanted in, they'd get in. But they didn't want in anymore, because they'd already done what they set out to do. James saw Amanda once more, months later. He'd been driving through downtown, stopped at a red light, and there she was, crossing the street with her husband. Unwoo had his hand on the small of her back, protective, gentle. They were talking about something mundane, groceries maybe, or weekend plans, and Amanda was smiling, that same free smile from the photo. James had ducked his head, praying they wouldn't see him. The light turned green. He drove away. That night, James waited for a message, a photo, some proof that they'd seen him, that the punishment would start again. Nothing came, because James finally understood. They didn't need to watch him anymore. He was watching himself now. Every time he thought about starting to date again, he remembered the list, the numbers, the cruelty wrapped up in honesty. Every time he looked in the mirror, he saw someone who'd spent 3 years systematically destroying another person's self-worth because it made him feel powerful. Every time he lay down to sleep, he wondered if tonight would be the night they came back, if he'd wake to find another envelope, another message, another reminder. But they never came. The silence was the punishment now, permanent, unescapable. James had learned to live with a constant low-level anxiety that never quite went away, a feeling like someone was watching from just outside his peripheral vision, like the other shoe was always about to drop. He'd started therapy. The therapist asked about his relationships, James had tried to explain about Amanda without explaining the aftermath. It hadn't worked. He'd stopped going. Some of his friends had noticed the change, asked if he was okay. James would smile and say he was fine, just stressed, just tired. They'd eventually stopped asking. His father had asked once, pointedly, if that situation had been resolved.
James had said yes. It was both truth and lie. The active surveillance had stopped, but the fear hadn't. The shame hadn't. The constant awareness that somewhere out there, a man with resources and connections and patience had decided James' punishment wasn't violence, it was memory, living with what he'd done, living with the knowledge that someone knew, someone had documented it, someone could, at any moment, decide he hadn't learned enough. And the worst part was, James knew he deserved it. Every sleepless night, every paranoid glance over his shoulder, every moment of wondering if that car was following him, or if that stranger was watching him, or if tonight would be the night they decided he needed another lesson. He deserved all of it, because for 3 years he'd made Amanda feel exactly this way. Watched, judged, never safe, never good enough. The only difference was she'd escaped, and James never would. Amanda stood at the window of their penthouse, looking out over the city lights. Seoul was beautiful at night. All those buildings lit up like stars brought down to earth. Eun-woo's arms wrapped around her waist from behind. She leaned back into him, comfortable, safe. "What are you thinking?" he asked quietly. "Nothing important." Liar. Amanda smiled. She turned in his arms to face him. "I saw him today. James. He was at the grocery store near my old neighborhood." Eun-woo's expression didn't change. "Did he see you?" "No, he was at the pharmacy counter. Looked like he was picking up sleeping pills or anxiety medication." She paused. "He looked tired, scared." "Good." "Eun-woo, good," he repeated, gentler this time. "He should be scared. He should remember what he did every single day." "Is it ever going to end?" Amanda asked. "The watching? We stopped months ago." "I know, but does he know that?" Eun-woo smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "No, and he never will. That's the point." Amanda studied her husband's face. She'd learned to read him over the past year, the way his jaw tensed when he was angry, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, the way he became someone different, someone colder when dealing with threats. She'd married a dangerous man, but he'd never been dangerous to her. "Do you think he's changed?" Amanda asked. "I think he's scared. Whether that's the same as changed, I don't care. As long as he never touches you again. As long as he wakes up every day remembering what happens when someone hurts what's mine." "Yours?" Amanda raised an eyebrow. "Ours," Eun-woo corrected with a small smile. "We're each other's." Amanda kissed him. Soft, sweet. The kind of kiss that still made her marvel that this was real, that someone looked at her the way Eun-woo did, like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. "I don't think about him anymore, James. I used to think I'd always carry that weight, what he said, how he made me feel. But I don't. That's because you're stronger than he ever gave you credit for. Or because I have you. Both can be true." They stood like that for a while, wrapped in each other, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, James William was probably lying awake, checking his locks, watching his cameras, jumping at shadows, living in a prison of his own making, and Amanda felt nothing about that. Not satisfaction, not guilt, not pity, nothing, because he'd stopped mattering the moment she realized she was worth more than his opinion of her. The rest, the watching, the fear, the paranoia, that was just Eun-woo making sure James never forgot what he'd done. A permanent reminder that some people will protect what they love with a patience and precision that's more terrifying than any violence. "Come to bed," Eun-woo murmured against her hair. She let him lead her away from the window, away from thoughts of the past, away from the ghost of a man who'd tried to make her small. Behind them, the city glittered, and somewhere in that city, James William